Welcome back, everybody, to Modern Randy. I am Randy, and today I'm talking about how RCDC went, how it changed Pioneer, what's going on in Pioneer, and all that fun jazz. As always, guys, if you like what you're seeing, like what I'm doing, go ahead and leave a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel, and let me know if there's anything you guys want me to see covered, or want me to cover, or anything like that. But going over the RC and DC that just ended this past weekend, I was there along with Crawdaddy23, aka Dakota. Him and I went, we were qualified, we both got thoroughly spanked trying to do anything at that tournament. We were prepared, but did not do well. Variance was not on our side. A little bit of misplays here and there, but it happens. You got to go to tournaments. You're going to do some 0-3 drops. You're going to do some deep runs and still lose. It all happens, but I had fun. It was great going out, playing in a big event, having fun. I had Dakota there. It was also fun to see him. That was his first RC, so it was fun for him as well. But looking at kind of the breakdown of Washington DC RC, basically this is a day one breakdown. Kind of a little, no big surprises with Azorius Control and Rakdos Aggro being the two top decks in the format. We expected them to be the most played, at 15% and 14.2% respectively. And then obviously Phoenix was at 11.9. Again, not too surprising. Having the Incarnation deck as the fourth deck was a little bit surprising at 7.5%, and then Rakdos Transmogrify at 6.8%, and then the Jund Sack deck at 6.7%, which I believe they lumped in Jund Sack and like the Black-Red Sack, because there's a little bit of Black-Red Sack decks running around. Excuse me, that were also played. So I think this lumped all the Sacrifice decks together. And then Greasefang was another surprising one to be kind of more than I expected to be. Same thing with Rakdos midrange. The Mono Black midrange deck did show up, which was not too surprising. I know that deck kind of had started making waves here in the towards the end, coming into the RC, and then a couple of other percentages going down. But as you can see, it's kind of a healthy metagame, right? Yeah, we had 15, 14, essentially 12, and then 7.5% and 7% of the RC, but it overall was like a healthy meta. It wasn't, a lot of people thought that Phoenix is going to be the number one deck, and this is going to be Crew's Winter essentially, or whatever you want to call it, because there was going to be so many Phoenix decks, and this is the number one deck in the format. There's no way you can beat this deck, and this Treasure Cruise should have been banned, and all these other wild radical things that people were saying. Now, obviously, Phoenix is still a good deck, and there's nothing wrong with taking it. There's nothing wrong with doing well with it. I believe that Phoenix was probably the last deck to lose the undefeated ranking in the tournament even. So it was a good deck, but it didn't dominate. There wasn't 8 copies of Phoenix in the top 8, anything crazy like that. So overall I think it was a very healthy format, healthy metagame, and I think it's in a healthy format right now with Pioneer. It's definitely brought a lot of fresh air. Now they banned Amalia, they banned the Vein Ripper combo, Sorin. They banned Sorin. So definitely a healthy metagame. I'm really happy with what was there. Just really good, really diverse field. I only played against the same deck twice, and that was twice, and that was between playing in the 10K on Sunday and the main event. So definitely excited about that, and just how well it was diverse. Moving on to day 2 breakdown here. This is all the decks that made it to day 2. Unsurprisingly, Azorius Control, Rakdos, Aggro, and Is It Phoenix are still the top 3 decks. I mean, there was so much percentage of them that made it through. Azorius Control still almost 15% of the metagame, which is kind of crazy that it made that much into day 2. Same with Rakdos Aggro at 13%, and then Is It Phoenix at 11.2%. And then, of course, we have the Incarnation deck that was doing well. Rakdos Transmogrify did halfway decently. The Sacrifice decks did do somewhat decently, and so on and so on. Notice that Mono Green Devotion jumped up, Lotus Field Combo jumped up, Abzan, Greasefang dropped down, things like that. But again, still healthy, still diverse. Obviously you're going to close some of those numbers down, but it wasn't anything crazy, right? There's still, like I said, Phoenix wasn't dominantly overpowering or anything crazy like that. And then kind of going over the win rate percentages of the decks. This is between day 1 and day 2. Azorius Control was at a 51%, which is about right for Control. Control never really has a super high win percentage rate. Is It Phoenix right there at 51.5. Rakdos Aggro at 52%. I definitely wasn't part of that number. I wasn't helping that cause. Incarnation doing well. Notice Mono Black mid range had a 54 or 54.5% mid 54.5% win rate. Kind of a huge jump there when you consider like everything else is hovering around 50%, a little lower than 50%. Abzan Greasefang definitely did not show up in the sense of it had a 46% win rate. Same thing with Mono Green Devotion and Rakdos, and Jund Sacrifice with 48%. These are, kind of the top tier decks that people expected coming into the tournament. These are the things that we expected to see. And then moving on and kind of expanding that into like the tier 2 decks, what I'm going to call them, not so much because they're a bad deck, but like as in popularity level, right? These are tier 2, as like we didn't expect to see these so much coming into the tournament. With maybe the exception, I think Rakdos Cauldron was probably a little bit more on people's radar, but that had a 57% win rate. That's kind of huge, along with Selesnya Company, a deck that really came out of nowhere. I think in most people's eyes had a almost 59% win rate, which is ridiculously good. And everything else is kind of like right around the same. Boros Control had a 43% win rate, which I don't think is too surprising. I think that deck is doing everything that Control does, but just slightly worse, in my opinion. Obviously, that's a personal opinion. Lotus Field obviously had a 54% win rate. I don't think a lot of people were prepared for the Lotus Field matchup. Lotus Field's kind of been on the downturn lately, so not too surprising to see it kind of have a little bit better numbers for this tournament when there wasn't a whole bunch of people prepping for that deck, essentially. Gruul Aggro notably had a terrible percentage at 44, basically 45%. So just kind of interesting to see what we had for win rate percentages, what was going on with the tournament, and overall just like kind of breaking down what we saw, what we expected, what we didn't expect to see for the win rate, for what was played, all that fun jazz. Moving on, this is like basically the whole breakdown of the decks that had Frank Karsten has done, kind of like showcasing what won, what didn't win, what was their matchup spread and things like that. Overall we see it like Selesnya Company had a 60% win rate throughout all the matches according to him. That is kind of crazy considering like that was essentially just it's just a Hate Bears deck is probably the best way I have to describe it. Only it plays a lot more 3-drops than 2-drops for the Hate Bear part. Rakdos Tree, again, doing just surprisingly well, I think, as a whole. I don't think this deck was bad by any means, but I think a lot of people kind of saw it more as a meme deck or not fully developed. At least that's how I saw it. Now, obviously, I'm not going to say I speak for all Magic players because that'd be crazy. For sure. But I do think it's kind of interesting seeing what we had breakdown here, and then obviously if you guys want to pause the video, take a look at it more closely, or if you want to check over on Frank Karsten's Twitter, you'll have it up there. I'm sure he's going to write an article as well, so I mean I wouldn't be surprised if it comes out by the time this video comes out as well, because it will be a couple days after the tournament's over that this video does pop up. But it is just kind of interesting to see a breakdown of everything that happened. I think that whether you want to play pretty much anything in Pioneer, it's open right now. Pioneer is not a solid format anymore. You have these variety of deck choices, and I think you can even see it when we look at the top 8 of the RC here. We had 2 Izzet Phoenix decks. We had a Rakdos Aggro deck. We had a Rakdos Transmogrify. We had Rakdos Cauldron. We had Azorius Lotus Field. Selesnya Company was there, and the Incarnation deck was there. So I mean, wide variety of top 8 here. Only 2 of the same deck with Izzet Phoenix, which isn't too surprising. Izzet Phoenix was doing very well, or at least a couple people were doing extremely well with the deck. Not that it wasn't doing well overall, but there were some people doing extremely well with it. And even still, like, we look at this, and it does look like, obviously, Rakdos is still probably one of the best color combinations to play in Pioneer. Thoughtseize is a hell of a card. So is Fable the Mirrorbreaker. And then, of course, we did have Rakdos Cauldron winning the game, or winning the tournament as a whole, which was really cool to see Corey take that down. And just see it get taken down by essentially a deck that wasn't, super popularized, super known right off the bat. So it was really fun to watch this whole thing go down. It was really interesting, and I think that the RC proved that Pioneer is wide open, and it's anybody's game, right? Like we had Rakdos Cauldron just take this down. I'm sure as we go to Europe and the other countries and watch their RCs, we're going to see more decks, and we're going to see probably things that we weren't expecting yet, as well as decks that, as well as just seeing that anything can take it down. I wouldn't be surprised if the next one that came out that Incarnation took it down, Selesnya Company could easily take it down. Any of these top 8 decks right here could have taken down the RC. I could see them taking down another RC. Same thing with some of the other decks that didn't make it to the top 8. This was just a wide open format. the RC felt good with how many decks were viable, and the format feels healthy. I'm truly excited to see how Pioneer develops with how good it feels right now as a whole. So I think that the RC has really helped showcase that Pioneer, you can play anything, just about, and still do well at your local tournament, your big tournaments like the RC, or even like your local 1Ks, 5Ks, bigger tournaments on that size, and just play a deck that you like, play a deck that you think is well positioned. Know kind of the quote unquote meta decks, if you will. Know your, is it a Phoenix matchup? Know your Rakdos Transmogrified matchup. Know your Incarnation matchup, your aggro matchup, things like that. But I think that you can pretty much bring anything you want to a Pioneer tournament at this point, and have confidence, as long as you have confidence in your own deck and your ability to play. But that was the RC for me, essentially. I did not do well. It happens. I'm not upset by it by any means. I took Rakdos aggro, a deck that I knew people had on their radar for sure. I thought that I was in a well-positioned spot. I knew the deck really well. I had a good sideboard plan, but variance happens, bad plays happen, things like that happen. So not upset about it by any means. Wish I would have done better for sure, but there's always the next RC for sure. And I will hopefully be there, either in Portland, or I'll be there, and I will catch you guys next time. Don't forget to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel,